Hey everyone, welcome to I Am Reality, where you're the star and story of your reality. I am Mitch.
And I'm Stephania.
And I'm Robert.
And welcome, Robert Glover. And today is I Am Expressionism. It's really applications of entrepreneurship of our I Am Entrepreneur series. And we're super excited to have Robert Glover, CEO and president of Pinnacle Group. And he is runs coaching, life coaching for executives, as well as he has a background in real estate. And today, I think it's going to be really exciting to talk to him because this is going to be one of our first in the series where we are applying entrepreneurship, self image, cohesiveness, mutual benefit, win, win, win. Really everybody wins because this is the journey in self. And we'll get Robert's perspective on it and also align with Steph and myself. So, welcome, Robert, to the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, super excited. Robert's a good friend of ours, and he really gets it. He really understands, and fulfillment is really the name of the game. And really love in what you do, and love what you do for others, and the fulfillment in that mutual benefit. So I think this is really going to be a really great episode for us and for the audience. So again, thanks big time, Robert, for making the time to really showcase how we could apply our philosophy to everyone that's watching. So, Steph,
Same as you, Mitch. I'm very excited about this episode. Again, thank you, Robert, for joining us. I'm so happy that our audience gets to witness somebody that has actually applied these principles that we talk about: fulfillment, visualization, being centered in, the benefit of all. And not only has he done it in his real estate business, which he's been successful at, but now also with executive coaching, and he teaches others to do the same. So we're going to get a little bit of that, like, snippet of how he does it and how he shares the expressionism of love in his own business, and how you too can as well.
so Robert, thanks again for joining the program. Robert, why don't you walk us through with what you do? How do you apply your philosophy to the business, and
Mhm.
and maybe you can walk us through that with success.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. So I'm a high performance executive coach. I have backgrounds in real estate and also business. And that's what kind of led me to really just this philosophy and mindset, a bit of a journey. Um, when we were thinking about the title for this video, we were talking about art quite a bit. And I think Steph mentioned your past video about art, I think really, teed off this discussion pretty well. And I thought, what better way to express entrepreneurship than expressionism? And let me just read it for you here. So, expressionism, it's an art form that depicts subjective emotions and inner experiences rather than objective reality. So, when I liken entrepreneurship to expressionism, that really is how I feel we're best in flow when we're seeing the most success is when we're taking our inner desire and actually putting it forth for others to really enjoy as well. We were talking a little bit off camera before this about, win-win scenarios or win-win-win or mutual to the degree that we always want to have, working relationships in our partnerships and business or just our interactions and transactions as we're earning money in a career and just income. We want to be able to express ourselves in an artistic manner, but also to have people receive it. I mean, there's nothing better than what you had in your mind, putting out there into reality and having a reception audience that enjoys that and loves that. And, that is your expression of love and it being, boomerang back to you.
Yeah, I love that. And, it coincides with what I've been saying for a really long time now, that, like, life can be art, right? Everything in life is art in itself, because all art develops and evolves and it builds upon itself, right? So, like, generation after generation, we're taking the information that we've experienced, and we're always trying to idealize how can we make it better. And I love that we get to a point that we recognize that we can actually manifest these things into reality, right? Because they don't have to just stay in our heads and our
Hmm.
minds. And it's that freedom of expression that not only enhances, our beautiful homes or like our relationships and our families, but also in our businesses where we can give ourselves that artistic freedom and build something for ourselves and for others to enjoy and then financially benefit from it. So I love this concept.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, even
it's
more
it's
so, step to what you were saying, as far as like having it be in your head. I mean, that really is what it is. I mean, the courage to have that idea, but then to express it out is an art form in itself. And when it comes to the financial aspect of it, I mean, that's all money is. It's just a representation of value. And it's people awarding your value, your art in that sense, how you were craftily put that together. So yeah, I
yeah.
definitely resonate with that.
Robert, this is a really exciting topic, and I'd love to you to walk us through. So, executive coaching. We're dealing with high worth individuals in the space. Obviously, they have businesses. They're CEOs in many cases of their own. How do you perceive? What is your perception? So, before you even meet with a executive coaching engagement, how do you see the client? So it's really your self-image of you and the client and the success of them really being in the end, living in the end, right from the
Mhm,
beginning.
mhm.
How do you perceive that? So do you see them like how do you envision their success right from the beginning, and what's your mindset when it comes to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you and I, Mitch, and Steph, we've also talked about this at length. We all have background or foreknowledge of Bob Proctor. I'll say, at least for me, I didn't begin my journey, as I would call it, of awareness until I became aware of Bob. So I'll put it kind of in the framework that he would put it. He would always ask where you're at currently, and sometimes he would ask, how much do you currently make a year? He never really cared. He just wanted to know where you were at because that was your identity. And, kind of going back to what we were saying earlier, as far as, money being a representation of value, how much do you believe that you are worth? How much does how much do you express that? How much does the economy, your reality acknowledge you back as far as how much you're worth? Where do you believe you are? And then where would you like to be? And where is that gap between that? You have that vision already. You know what that looks like. You know how that person acts, how they demonstrate themselves. You are the creator in all of that. What is that gap and why are you not doing that? So that's essentially what I'll do with everybody. Sometimes, I mean, another Bob Proctor phrase is, well, majority of times is they're called unconscious competence. They've had such a high level of success, they have no idea how they got there. And then once they've reached that goal, they are either, if they don't have a mentor on their side, then that's where they kind of hit like a bit of a depressive moment because they don't know what to do anymore. They have no idea how they flowed there and they're trying to just scramble their brain over the how. And they're looking at, the physical reality and trying to determine, well, how did I get here? And that's not going to solve it for them. So I will say, go back and answer your question. I always figure out where the baseline is right now because at the end of the day, it's all the same things, whether they want to 10x their business or they want to work on their maybe their business partnerships. For a lot of these people, they're already successful, and it unfortunately their family life didn't have the same measure of success. So it's either the marriages or where the case may be. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's where they're at now, where they want to be, that goal, their vision, and then what is the gap between that. And really just walking them through that because they are the creator. They've architected all. I mean, they're really the artist, and that is their expression. They just don't know how to uh, express it outward, and sometimes it just needs to be shown to them.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. I have a quick follow up, and then I'll let Steph jump in. So as you go through the journey with the client or with the
Mhm.
engagement, and really it's a journey, you're really in the same journey yourself. It's like you're all
Absolutely.
one,
Mhm.
right? So as they're talking, as a client's talking to you, how do you perceive them? Do you give the meaning you prefer? Like so they obviously have some challenges, and all obstacles or opportunities. So do
Mhm.
you transmute? How do you transmute? How do you alchemize what they're saying so you're not disempowered by what they're saying? And how do you not be reactive to what they're saying? Because certainly, if they're
Mhm.
looking to
Mhm.
have this type of coaching, They're looking to, obviously the goal is to uplift. And I know that you're extremely successful in this area. I know that you've been doing this for a long time. And that's why we're super excited to have you here. So, how do you transmute the obstacle to opportunity to see their success as they're talking to you? How do you envision this themselves so you see what you prefer in what they're saying,
Mhm,
since there's obviously infinite meanings?
mhm. No, that's a really great question. So this is, for one, you are correct 100%, that just because I'm mentoring somebody doesn't mean they're not also mentoring me. Just because I'm teaching somebody doesn't mean they're also teaching me. It's all there for a purpose, and that really is a philosophy I push on to people. Um, I always see them at their highest. I don't see them I always see the potential that's in between, but them already at that peak, and then even more so going above and beyond. Where they're currently at is the lesson where that needs to be learned. So let's say, for example, let's just think of like a common scenario that I come across, which is honestly, it's somebody who's really, really successful, don't know how they got to that measure of success. They enjoyed that whole ride. They're at where they'd like to be as far as like income, time, money, freedom is concerned, but they don't have the family life they're wanting. Somewhere along the way, they, you know, maybe their spouse or where the case may be just got lost in that. And that's where their conflict is. And but at the end of the day, it's just the paradigm that is really just trying to rope them back in because it's all that just that fear, doubt, and worry. So I don't look at that. I don't need to look at any of that. I need to get them to understand is it's there for a purpose. It's there for a lesson. To the degree that they've had success in one area is proof enough they could have degree of success in all areas. To the degree that they have imperfection is to the degree that they could have perfection. You need to have that contrast. For some people, they don't like it, and then they're like, "Well, why would we ever suffer?" You would never be able to experience light if you didn't have darkness. To the degree that you experience cold, they're all just on, we're talking about polarity now. We're getting into some deeper things, but that's really all that it is. So if they could understand that and understand that and transmute it then to gratitude instead of, because again, it's the same thing. Being really funny here, but if I stub my toe, I can look at it like I'm the victim in that, or I can be grateful for the fact to realize there's things in here that could hurt me. You know, it's the
Yeah.
same thing it's the same thing in business, the same thing in relationship. It's getting them just to realize it's all already here. Everything's been created. It's all here already. We are just discovering it, and that's what we're transmuting. We're just discovering it and just transmuting it into the perfection it was intended for from the beginning.
Yes, I agree with that
Mhm,
so much. Everything about what you just said, it's just really a purification of going back to what we prefer. We're clarifying what the experiences that we deserve. And going back to what you were mentioning about people having a value, financial numerical value, it's like, what do you think you're worth? And the interesting thing is that we are deciding that for ourselves. And I
mhm,
think most minds have forgotten that. They forget, they become a victim to the economy, to their families, to their past, even their intellect. And that doesn't need to be the case because we are defining our own worth and our own value, which I think is so important in our channel. That's one of the biggest things I convey to our audience, and I send so much love to everybody watching. You are infinitely worthy and valuable and perfect right now. And it is through your courageous resilience in standing up for yourself, first to yourself and then the world, and say, no, I don't deserve this experience that's painful. I don't deserve this bad business or this bad career where people are talking down to me. You give it to yourself first. You understand that you're ultimately worthy, infinitely like amazing and powerful. And just because you had those dark experiences, it doesn't mean that it defines you. It's just showing you where not to keep going. Okay, I didn't like
mhm,
this. This hurt. Let me choose something else. Let me continue to purify, redefine, and clarify my wonderful earth experience, right? And
mhm, mhm,
I also think that when people have success in one category, like they have this dream, this desire, and the desire itself comes with the energy and the impulses and all the information. So it's pulling them in, right? And because it was so unconscious, the dream flourishes. They create this beautiful garden, whether it's a castle, a career, a family life. And then maybe they want something else once the dream is born, or the path has been built, or the house has been built. And then they're like, wait, now I want something else. And now the confusion comes in because they're like, wait, I built this with all this momentum, all this energy. Now I don't know how to build the new thing. And there's almost like a layer of guilt that comes in, but like, I got everything I wanted and now I want more. And yes, you guys, that's the whole point of your awareness, your creation. Awareness expands, love is here to expand and keep creating. So you do deserve to create more and add to your creations. And it really is in every category of your life, you know. And it's you giving it shape. You're animating the reality that you get to beautifully experience in your physical world.
Hmm. 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that definitely we resonate with that, certainly in this space. And then for you, Robert, wanted to walk you through another scenario with that in mind. So essentially, when we're looking at the this space, we're looking at a goal, we're looking at a vision, we're looking at a journey. So the vision simply, obviously, is the wish fulfilled for yourself, the wish fulfilled for the client. So once we envision that for them, we're really on the path. We're on the path to the goal right then and there, because it's instant. It really is instant, and everything's unfolding, right? So everything that happens with your journey with the client, to the vision, is in harmony and contribution. So everything's the sign, and everything is, signs proceed. Signs follow; they don't proceed. So do you look at
Mhm.
it that way? Do you look at every part of the journey to be the path to the vision, regardless of circumstances, because we're transmuting it and alchemizing it? Do you look at the last frame of the movie, so to speak, and then everything is leading up to and to that vision in that way in harmony contribution?
I do. It's there for us to experience it. It doesn't, this is getting into a little bit more the observer effect. If you didn't, if you're purely just scientific and you or just of, you know, not to put this harshly, but of the world, and you didn't believe in anything like spiritually or esoteric, you could just rely upon the quantum mechanics and realize that nothing exists unless we're observing it. This is all here for the whole purpose is for it to be experienced. If you're not experiencing it, it doesn't exist. I mean, they've proven this time and time again. I mean, we flash in and out constantly. We're really just echoes of just frequency. That's getting into a whole other topic. So I don't really go there, but I agree to so going off Mitch, your question, yes, everything is a part of the story, the pattern, my paradigm, whatever word you want to put on it, my preference when I'm giving meaning is being outpictured to me. Whether I am consciously, which hopefully we are consciously choosing these things, or subconsciously it's just happening. Whether it's from our upbringing or where the case may be, I think also too that's why people are so attached to or they able to manifest pain so quickly. It's because they affirm it so immediately. They know what's going. I mean, I think really in any scenario, I don't have to give them, but if you think about pain and whatever innumerable degrees it is, you don't have any doubt of that. And I think that's where a lot of people, unfortunately suffer. But to digress off that, yes, I do believe every part is part of the overall story that you're out picturing. It's there necessary for the lesson. I mean, it's your story. There has to be a climax. There has to be a villain. There has to be the hero. Hopefully, you're playing, or hopefully you're playing the star in that role, but also realizing how Neville puts it. You're the producer, the director, and the actor in it, but all that is necessary. But even to that, I think what's even more effective and is a technique I do encourage with a lot of my clients is revision. To the degree that I'm observing everything in my day and transmuting that for my benefit, I can double down on that and go back and revise it. Just how we were talking earlier about contrast and polarity. let's say today was like a really, really, hot day for me, as far as like the weather is concerned, I can revise that. And not only did I learn from my day that I had, but now also too, I can revise and I've learned and I've experienced through the contrast that I've revised.
I agree with you a lot. Yeah. It's revision is great. I've used it so much in my own life, and it's making the abnormal normal so that that becomes your safety net basically, right? So for you guys, the ones of you watching that maybe felt like you didn't have financial stability or like maybe emotional support in your families, make it normal to yourself. Like, what would it feel like if I was this character that always had financial support, that always had a career that was flourishing? And so you don't thirst for it where you have to chase for something. You just like it's who you are. And you're gonna notice that when it's who you are, everything starts coming to you. Everything starts coming to you. The friendships that you made normal in your mind, supportive, loving friendships. How would it feel to have people that support your dreams, that don't put you down? And it's really staying away from those stories. I notice that when there's a more unconscious crowd, people love retelling like the chaos. This one time, this scary thing happened to me. And let's be honest, those stories are impressive. That's why they're captivating, right? That's why the whole room is listening like, "I can't believe this happened?" And it's just bad energy to engage with. Nothing is good or bad, but it is very telling of where you're at. So if you're like consistently consuming, dirty water, you're not going to feel hydrated. And you're going to
Mhm.
start assuming through your psyche and your awareness that you're going to carry it with you and think that it's going to happen to you. And then, the prophecy fulfills itself because now you start to believe in something that doesn't have to be your truth. So I recommend a lot, especially like in business, if you're becoming an entrepreneur or if you want to find success in your own family life, like really stand up to the stories that are not your truth. If you hear somebody say something, like, "Oh, this happened to me. I got quote unquote robbed," or, something happened with the taxes. Taxes are terrible. No, that's not your truth. That's not my truth. The whole world is here to support me. The economy supports me. The government supports me. My family, my friends, my clients love me. My clients support me. So really, when you not only speak it into existence to yourself, you're emotionally energizing and animating that into your life. And you're going to start seeing the results of it. And then you can't deny it because you're the creator of it. And that's what we encourage you guys to do in this show.
No, absolutely. I mean, you put it better than I could have. That's really what I was trying to describe is we prefer drama. I mean, the life wouldn't be entertaining if we didn't have drama. The drama of our life is what we create. For a lot of people, they don't like to hear that. But unfortunately, that is how it is. You are creating it. You can stop it. You can change it. But to if you are observing your reality and it's too dramatic for you, then realize, hey, maybe you need to throttle back a little bit, or just prefer different drama. I mean, comedy is a drama. How we're talking about art. There's so many different types of drama, but it is what you prefer, and that is, I guess, what I meant when I was saying people prefer or can affirm more quickly, like pain, because that's drama. That's something they can immediately accept. They have to have that contrast, and especially when it
Yeah.
comes to entrepreneurship. A lot of people go in with the preconceived notions or the drama that it's going to be hard. You have to hustle, you have to grind. You're accepting other people's ideas or drama because you've seen it in them. Um, Envy is another great example where, if you could envy somebody, that's proof that you could have it. You just need to transmute and flip it around to the degree that, go out to an abundant place. And if you see like Lamborghinis or Ferraris, if you associate that with wealth, never envy that. That's proof that you could do that. You're observing it. You chose to see that in you yourself, your reality is reflecting it back to you and showing it to you. When you envy, you separate from yourself. You're telling yourself that I don't believe what I am showing myself is possible of me. And that's a lie. That's a very confusing, contrasting thing. You're going to keep seeing that in your life. But if you realize that, oh, when you see somebody who's rich and you tell yourself, wow, I'm so rich, you really are because you're observing your expression. You presented that to yourself as proof that it was
Yeah.
possible. And a lot of the times these things are insanely
Yeah.
possible. If I could walk you through not to downplay achievement, but to it's really in your mind. The most wealthiest of people I've met, if you talk with them, it's almost like, what is it that saying, like, don't ever meet your heroes, because you realize, like, I built you up in my head. You're not as fantastic as I. It's not. It's all very, very
Yeah.
simple. So,
Yeah.
but that's just the drama that we believe, and that's what holds us back. It doesn't have to be that case. You can instead have you know, you could still, you know, people like the word epic, but then they associate, you know, catastrophe with it. You can have, you know, it could be a great epic journey. To segue for as an example, I have four young children, and they really like the movie. Well, and also too, I prefer them to watch the movies by Illumination, like the Minions. Those are the perfect stories to really, if you get to understand drama, because beginning to end, it's a progression upwards. It never stops. It's always going up, 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 and it's just a fun ride all the way. Is there drama? Is there things they have to solve? Yes, but it's with comedy. You're laughing. If you realize you're creating it, you can laugh along the way
Yeah.
and say, "Oh, here I am experiencing my creation," and it's just an upward ride. You know what's going to happen in the end because it's what you prefer. As long as you hold on to that, as long as you don't segue
Yeah.
and derail, you're good.
Yeah, I find that drama is really the drama in yourself, and certainly when you're
Hmm.
watching these shows, it's your reactions, right? It's your reactions. And
Hmm.
then it's really a belief in yourself. It's the purification of anything that's, disempowering. If it's perceived that way, then it's drama. But it's not really, obviously, if it's comedy, it's lighthearted. But when we're dealing with clients and businesses and entrepreneurship, we look at the drama because we're in the drama. Even though the client's talking to us, we're perceiving it, we're reacting to it as if it's our own drama. We're in the
Hmm.
play with, the client is the show, and we're reacting to it to be obviously looking for the ideal vision. And as we go through the journey, we're reacting. We see the highs and lows. This is the drama, but it's really beliefs because they're all illusory. The only thing that's real is love. The only thing that's real is what we prefer. And that's why we react. That's why we call it drama. So if the client's saying, well, this happened to me today, I'm trying to overcome it, we're overcoming it.
Hmm.
It's not that
Hmm.
there's an other here that's overcoming it. We perceive it, we feel because we're love, right? Because if, since our true identity is love, we're reacting. We're the ones because otherwise we wouldn't even know it's drama. The client could be saying, this happened, this happened. There's no drama. It's only drama because we're perceiving it as the drama. Otherwise, there is no drama. Everything's in harmony. Everything's working out. It's all unfolding. But it's really us that's purifying what we're perceiving in the journey, and the journey and the destination are one. So on that note, Steph mentioned a couple of great things. One of them was, that we're familiar and known with things. We do what's known to us. So Robert, why don't you walk us through with the drama for transmuting the unfamiliar to being familiar, to Steph's point,
Hmm.
and the unknown to the known? How do we, because typically we're going from a state of purification. That's really what all, executive coaching and any coaching is really to purify beliefs and making the familiar, making the unfamiliar, well, making the familiar from the unfamiliar, making the known from the the unknown, the known from the unknown. So how do you empower and make what was unfamiliar familiar and what was unknown known to an engagement?
Yeah, it really just comes down to offering perspective. I mean, we all know, because like how you're saying, Mitch, I mean, we all are all love. It's just really that kaleidoscope of life that we choose to put on it that kind of fractures and dismantles that light. But also too, that's necessary in the whole concept of what we were talking about earlier with contrast. So in regards to when it just comes to coaching, giving examples, it really is, again, I always go back to, you know, what I was talking about with Bob is getting them to understand like where they're at currently and really just offer perspective. I think this, so let me segue for example, maybe this would be this might be a roundabout way of explaining, but hopefully I can keep it concise. So a good friend of mine, Kyle Schaefer, I'll give a shout out if you're watching this. We were on the phone yesterday, and this man, he does really, really successful in the industry that he's in. and he knows it. You can, when you talk to him, you understand with conviction that he knows it to the degree that I would feel confident in him if I needed him for that service, or if I would just wanted to invest in him, I would feel confident in his conviction, his understanding. Not that he's passionate about it, but that just that he knows. I could be, the same way you could talk with like a weatherman or like they know what they're talking about. And but he's also in this space as far as like coaching is concerned. But we were having a conversation, and he was on my website, and he's like, "Man, Robert," he's like, I don't know, man. I just don't think I'm there yet." I was like, "Kyle, do you understand?" Because we met about a year ago at an event from one of our previous mentors. I was like, "Do you understand? A year ago, you're completely different. Do you understand? 5 years ago to now, you're completely different. Do you understand? Yesterday, you're completely different, and all those innumerable different Kyles exist right now. Could you honestly say you yourself right now could not bestow enlightenment to the Kyle a year ago, to the Kyle 5 years ago, to the Kyle yesterday?" He's like, "Well, yeah, then you're necessary. You're necessary in that person's journey. You believe at your current level, you're not." And he was saying, "I feel like I'm on page one because we're looking at the level we're at right now, and we're saying the chasm in between, we have no idea how. The how doesn't matter. You're proof enough as it is already, and having that perspective to really like to realize, hey, I'm already standing on a mountain overlooking the clouds. Just because I want to go into space, it doesn't mean that you haven't already come so far. So it's really giving somebody that perspective and gratitude for it, and understanding that all of the seemingly, because again, it's all in the mind, all of the seemingly pain and struggle and hurdles and that climb upward was all in your head. I like to reference movies a lot just because it's an art form in itself. But I think it's The Hangover 3 whenever they're in Thailand or something like that. I'm not sure. But that main character, I don't remember his name, but he's the Asian character who's kind of always, they found him in the trunk of the first movie. He's just this crazy guy. But they're all together, they find each other, and then they're just giving them the sob story. He's like, "But did you die?" And I always say that to people, "Did you die? Like, are you still here? Are we talking? Did your physical
Yeah.
body die?" Like, and just giving them that perspective, it was all in your head. And to the degree that you believe that you can't meet it here, it's still all in your head. There's nothing that you cannot do. There's certain core principles. If you can imagine it, you can make it happen. And that's your purpose in life. Because otherwise you would have never imagined it. And that kind of goes to the second one thing is, if you have the desire for it, that's proof enough that you can do it. You would not have that desire if you didn't have that ability to do it. That is your expression. There's certain things that clearly I know that I probably could do based off the first one, but I don't have desires to do that. And that goes back
Mm.
to kind of entrepreneurship. There's things that we think we can do, and there's things we desire to do. For a lot of entrepreneurs, especially, that I coach and whatnot, they always think they should 10x because they hear it from everybody else and they think that sounds sexy. That's what they should be doing. What do they really desire to be doing? They'll do this for a little bit, but the paradigm will kick back in, something will justify it, and they won't do it anymore. They'll quit and they'll go off and on and on. What do they really desire to do? They'll forget everything in the background and they will be laser focused. And that's all they should ever be doing is what they're desiring to do. And that is flow. Everything outside of that you shouldn't be doing. It's either you're, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or you're full in, you're just racing ahead. So it's really just giving them
I
perspective and getting them aligned on that. Stop messing with the noise of what you are going to do or not going to do, and just be full on, burn the shifts behind you, and just what is something that you really, really desire you are meant here to do, and forget all else. Give a good Bob Proctor quote. I love telling people this. I forget which, I think it was the Science Getting Rich webinar, but this is like at the end of his life. And if you read his son, Brian Proctor's book, My Father Knew the Secret, he talks about how Bob was in excruciating pain towards the end of his life. But when it came time for these webinars, he just turned on. He always turned on for it because that's what his desire was. It was a night, Brian would say, is a night and day. This man on like pretty much his deathbed to the point where you couldn't tell. He was a completely, the energy was just emanating from him. But he's saying at the end of that, And to give context, Bob Proctor is from the movie The Secret. He's always been doing it prior to, but the kind of people know him from the movie The Secret. But at the end of that webinar, he says, like, here's the trick, like, here's the secret. I'm going to tell you the sauce right now. Decide what you want in life. Quit fooling around with your life. It's too short. And that's really all it comes down to, is decide what you want in life and say no to everything else. So it's really just, getting them to answer your question, Mitch. That was a really long example. I apologize.
No, it's all
I
good.
liked it.
But getting them aligned, giving the perspective and clearing all the noise and just getting them just focused on what is something that you would just be full on passionate, driven towards.
Yeah. Oh my God, I agree with, everything you said, but what I love is the example that you gave our audience where it has to be your desire, what you really
Hmm.
want. And that also takes some clarification. At first, I think for me specifically, when I was younger, I didn't have like a huge desire. I just wanted to explore, right? And that was part of my desire to go through different scenarios in my life, explore different careers, different art forms, so to speak. And then really, I got more clarity on what I actually wanted to hone in on, right? And when I started spreading this message at first, because I started realizing that whatever I focus internally actually happens, the pushback sometimes from crowds were like, oh, well, if I can do whatever I want, how come, this hasn't happened, or why hasn't this happened, et cetera. And I was like, but do you really want that? Because I don't really want to
Hmm.
be like an Olympic swimmer. I don't. Now, if I had the desire, I knew I could do it because I would really put all my energy and life into that. So it's really important to know that you guys get to decide. And let's say you decide on wanting an apple tree, but then later on you're like, you know what, halfway through, you're like, you know what, pears sound more enticing. You're allowed to do that. You can start planting pear trees from then on and then develop your garden and not feel so like ostracized of like, you see, nothing works out for me. No, you're walking a path. You are the path, you are the door, you are the way, and the resources come to you. And this is really, really important to know, you guys, because you're like, how? How am I going to make it happen? And the first battle you're going to have is in your mind. You're going to say, I really have this dream of selling apples, but the market's saturated. How am I going to get clients? Look at the ground and the weather and like all these examples of why it's not going to work. But you have to be courageous enough to say, this is what I want, and I don't care what my brain is saying. So you stand up to yourself. And then the funny thing is that the reflection is going to start showing you the thoughts that you had, right? And you're like, no, you keep purifying. No, I get to have the experience that I want. My desire is my wish, is my want, is my will. God's will is my will. And I get to express it through myself. And when you know that's kind of like the pattern, you stop being so afraid. You're like, okay, I want this. And then your brain starts talking. You're like, nope, I don't care anymore. Then you start seeing the people going against. You're like, nope, I don't care anymore. Because you've seen the formula, you guys. You've seen the formula. So you become so resilient in your life where you're like, I get everything I want. Why? Because I know I'm creating it and I know there's going to be clouds along the way, but this is the fun part. Now you start seeing miracles. Like I talk about this all the time. When I see setbacks, I already conditioned myself to get really happy about it. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm about to see miracles right now. If this is telling me no, if this door is closing, 10 are about to open for me. Like I know this is my truth. And it came from that courage to follow my dream, time and time again. So I know the formula, you guys. So all you have to do is start applying what we're sharing with you guys. That's all it is. Like right now, you keep
Hmm.
applying it and you get to have a really beautiful, harmonious, and successful life experience.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, agreed. And I think we have to wrap this up soon. But I want to just take a quick takeaway from what we're talking about, and that's this burning desire. Desire is fulfillment. When you truly have a desire, comes from God, because obviously, we're created in God's image, and for us to even have anything means that it's meant to be. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it. We wouldn't be able to do anything unless it was like we have arms. We wouldn't be able to pick up stuff if we weren't meant to pick up stuff. We wouldn't be able to run if we didn't meant to have legs. We have desire because it was meant to be that we have that fulfillment. So we were created to have that love and fulfillment, and I think that's, Robert, what you're resonating with, and certainly comes from love. It's a burning desire, and that's what the client ultimately we want to see for them. We want to, experience for them. Their fulfillment is really our fulfillment. It is a drama within ourselves, and we do purify beliefs along the journey. I mean, that's what we're doing when we react, and automatic reactions is a window to our subconscious beliefs. That's why we have reactions. We agreeing with them subconsciously. And certainly, I think you'd agree that that's why we do have desire, because we are our true identity is love, and I think that's really what really motivates us for that fulfillment in everyone being as one. And I think that's why entrepreneurship and expressionism is truly an art form in ourselves, as the play, to create,
Mhm.
to have that canvas, to create with others as being ourselves. And, Robert, I think, what do you think of that? And then we'll probably wrap up after that.
Wait, can I say something really
Oh,
quick? Before
sure,
we
go ahead.
wrap up, I want Robert to mention what we spoke about off camera about the fulfillment of a transaction or the collaboration when you collaborate in business. Remember, we were talking about how it doesn't necessarily always have to be so equal because each person's fulfillment is different, but you said it a lot more eloquent. So I would love for you to speak on that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, absolutely. So I guess to offer some context, we were talking about just mutual benefit. Obviously we know that's right. You know, and but I think there are unfortunately, some negative connotations about what that might mean. When people say like a win-win, they think like balanced scales, and that's not really exciting, especially, a majority of us live in, the West, but really a majority of our economies are capitalistic, where there has to be a winner there and it has to be a perceived loser. And then that's why, not to knock any of these authors or books, but that's where you have like ideas that like, never split the difference and hard negotiating, where you really had to be psychologically, getting the very best, and somebody clearly has to be winning significantly, and by the same measure, somebody has to be losing significantly. But when it comes to like the idea of having mutual benefit, if we go back to what we're talking about as far as like this is an art form, if let's say I had a product that I genuinely, and let's just keep it simplistic, maybe I am really just an artist, I'm a painter, and I paint something to the degree that I love this expression, I'm willing and courageous enough to put it out there for others to enjoy. And to the degree that, let's say, Mitch is going to be somebody who observes that and wants to purchase that, I will never know how much he loves that, and he will never know how much that I love it. And that's what the types of transactions we should look for in business, and that is what flow is. He should have overabounding love to the point where he may, hopefully not, but feel a little guilty, where he should be paying me even more, or I feel like I should be giving him for it even less because I'm so appreciative that he wanted it. Those are the types of, that kind of roundabout flow of just love and appreciation that we should look for as far as mutual benefit. It's kind of how Mitch put it, like a win-win-win. It's an overabounding appreciation for the transaction, what I've given and what he's given, and that back and flow from that. And that's the business we look for. Um, there's nothing better, and I'm sure everybody knows this in business, than referrals, because that's not me, marketing or selling or doing anything. That's somebody who's become an advocate of mine now, is going out and pretty much spreading the gospel of how I was able to help them fulfill their vision that they had in their mind, solve the problem they had in their mind. And there's nothing better than that. That is really what Wallace Wattles talks about by being an advancing man. It is you're continually advancing everybody. It goes on and on and on and never stops. It's like this reverberation that can never stop, just this perfect harmony.
Yeah, yeah, and just to add that to that a little bit more, is just that the mutual benefit, you guys, it's when you're like so excited and each person in the transaction is fully benefiting without, the negotiation of feeling like you feel like you got taken from, right? And that doesn't always have to be financially equal, right? One person's biggest dream could be like he's like Robert mentioned, it could be this art piece that he wants to collect, and that's his like highest excitement. And the other person's highest excitement at that moment is receiving the financial resources to buy, I don't know, like a car that they needed to finish the down payment on. So you see how it's not always equally objective. However, it's still the highest excitement for everybody collaborating on the project. So I think that's cool. That's a cool way to also understand it.
Mhm. Yeah, and at the core principle of it is money is just an expression of value. How much I value you and how much you're acknowledging my value. That's all it is. Money is nothing outside of that. Whether we switch to digital currency or we go back to just mess around with change all the time, it's just an expression of value. And there's nothing better than being in transactions where you put forth your value and it's being acknowledged back to you.
Yeah. And speaking of value, I want to just make it even better that, when we are seeing the client is successful, they do reach the vision. That's being priceless. That value is really yourself. You're one with the client in that pricelessness. There's really no money that you can put on that success other than being priceless yourself. So when you reach the vision, which is the same as the journey in overcoming the beliefs of yourself and the client, as one, you're priceless with the client. You're priceless as one. So that really makes you priceless in this whole endeavor of entrepreneurship because it's an endeavor and entrepreneurship and being priceless. And that's why it really is expressionism. It is an art. It is really worthiness, self-value, self-image in everything because you're one with the world in this journey. And it really is a great lesson to learn in entrepreneurship as expressionism. And I think on that note, we have so much here as takeaways to wrap it up. So on that note, Steph, why don't you take it away, and then I'll wrap it up with Robert.
So again, you guys, as you can see, I think it's safe to say that everybody on this call's biggest dream is to see your dreams come to fruition because we understand the love transaction dynamics. And really, that is just, I'm so excited that you're here watching us, being on our channel. Leave us comments, tell us your stories, be part of the conversation, be part of the story. Tell us, when you have success stories, come into the channel, tell us how you're living this truth so others can also enjoy it and actually start applying it into their lives. Or if you need some clarity, we would love to help you through it. And with that, Robert, again, thank you so much. And Mitch is probably going to close it off with some inspiration.
Yeah, Robert, thank you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being inspiration to us and this channel. It really means a lot to us. Robert Glover, CEO and president of the Pinnacle Group, with a background in real estate. So many thanks for insights and perspectives today on the program. So I'll take it out here. This is I am expressionism, entrepreneurship, applying your self-image. Certainly, it's your pricelessness in the journey and destination of the vision with humanity, with what we serve, fulfillment. Um, and in that journey is really a journey of yourselves and the drama and the beliefs that you purify. And that's why expressionism and entrepreneurship really do go hand in hand as an art form in yourself. So on that note, thank you very much for joining. And I am Mitch.
And I am Stefania.
I'm Robert. Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys.
Bye, guys. We love
See
you so
you. Take
much.
care.
Talk to you next time.